specifically to make sure we shook out that 3 to 5% qualified leads. Now, when you get started at the beginning, frankly, I'm a strange bird. I like the cold call. There's not many people who really, really like the cold call. But I happen to like it. And my business evolved because of something my dad actually said to me. My dad said, you know, if you want to make a lot of money, find something that everybody needs but doesn't want to do. And that was telemarketing for sure. I mean, it's really not the simplest thing in the world to grab a list, grab a phone, and start pounding away. But anybody in here who's ever had to do it because you were starting from new has known that they have been able to generate leads that way as long as you started with the correct group. So that's how I really came to, from a closing standpoint, I did major lead generation. And one of the things that we're going to be doing with Fonar is we're going to be doing outbound campaigning using that vehicle. So that's one of the things to introduce, is that we're going to test out different ways of using it until we hone in on exactly what works best for everybody. But we're going to use this vehicle to get the word out. I did a test market personally in between several meetings that we had with Fonar. And I started calling doctors around the location. 1 in 11 knew about the machine being in the location. And I was only calling within a 25-mile radius. 1 in 11. And everyone that knew was referring. So this became very telling in what the opportunity really out there is, multiple opportunities. Number one, selling machines. Number two, getting the doctors interested in upgrading their skills. And Dr. Damadian and I had a conversation in that, you know, doctors have to figure out ways to protect their patients today. You refer somebody out, you have a chance of losing them the next time around, because you deferred to somebody else's expertise rather than taking the patient as far as you possibly could take them. Well, that makes a lot of sense. If the GP was to refer the person to the MRI rather than referring the patient to the doctor or the surgeon or the specialist who then orders the MRI, we miss out on a huge opportunity. Because look at the number of surgeons in the country versus the number of doctors that can really refer people to this product. And it's huge. The difference is, I think, 20,000 surgeons compared to 300,000 general practitioners. Now, you may say they may only send 1 or 2 a month. Who cares? We need to get a location to, let's say, 440 scans a month. If you get somebody maxed out at like that 19 or 20, which plenty of the customers are doing, that's a gigantic business. So this is why getting that word out, wherever the Henry Ford said, I'd rather have 1% of 100 people than 100% of one person. Makes a lot of sense, because if he could affect everybody's productivity by 50%, he couldn't do anything to the guy who was working at 100%. There was no room for improvement. Here there was room for improvement. So if you have a market that's 12 or 13 times the size, who cares if they refer at a lower rate, as long as you have that steady rate of 440 to a machine a month. And I've seen the numbers at 440 a machine a month, and people are making a lot of money in this investment when it's cranking out that way. You must have run the numbers, right? Absolutely. So if you know that a guy can make so much money off of this investment, and a lot of this investment, and we're going to talk about investments too, it happens to be, I think, one of my specialties in business because I've had to deal with them so much. They're looking for a substantial investment today. There's never been a time that there's been more venture capital than there is today now. Because of things like the .com, people huddled in their money. There's a lot of venture capital out there. This is the kind of investment those kind of people are looking for. Does this seem like a high-risk investment to anybody in this room? Would anybody classify this a high-risk investment? And please, let's be completely open, because as soon as I finish this introduction, I want to hear about all the things that you want to talk about to clear the air. Yes?
It depends on who's purchasing it.
And what would be the difference?
Well, an entrepreneur who's not familiar with the medical industry has a little more of a learning curve to get the product going.
Right.
And that's proven in this room.
Right.
So it is high risk.
So let me ask you a question. Would it be better then to look for people in a demographic standpoint that you would eliminate that kind of person to selling from and get people that consider it a low-risk investment? Would that be a better move? If we could do that, if there was a way to do that.
I think that's a better move, but I think that we can't eliminate anybody right now. So
Right.
what you mentioned before about investors, those people that are good at getting into new businesses maybe could participate with the lower risk person. That's what we have to look for. That's the match.
Okay, so the money with the person that actually knows the business itself.
That's it.
Okay. You know, I think there's definitely merit in what you're saying, but I would say that if you were to approach the correct investor, matching the demographics dollar-wise, all the criteria, and I'll tell you something interesting. I can even get listings today, since, you know, with the internet today, information, nothing's secret anymore. So you can get information. I can even buy lists of people that are considered aggressive or very aggressive investors. So in those kinds of situations, to me, those would be really a strong place as one niche. I'm not saying we're going to give up anything. Absolutely not. We just want to make everything better. But I want to give you ideas of where we can put an investment. I'll give you, we were talking, doing some brainstorming with some people in my group, and we were thinking about hospitals, you know, sales to hospitals. The bottom line is you need to sell machines to make more in your commissions. So we need to think of unusual ways to maybe make deals, or not unusual, but new ways to make deals. Would you agree that every hospital in the world has benefactors, large benefactors, that are business people?
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
I mean, everybody's name is on the walls. You can pretty much go into a hospital and know who's giving the big money, because his stuff's right out front now. Imagine if you, and this is what I'm finding with I'm testing Columbus, Ohio. I happen to be spending some time there in another deal that I'm in, and we were test marketing Columbus, Ohio. It is amazing how many people of these doctors' offices that didn't know about the upright MRI are referring people not to radiology clinics, but to the hospital. So Riverside and Children's are the two where they're getting the most referrals. Now imagine if you went to a business person who was a big benefactor of a hospital, so he already understands the risk of medicine, for example, and you were to say to him, how about if we could structure it in a way where it was a gift? And if you don't want to structure it that way, how about if you fund it with your buddies and make it, however you want to make it, a donation to the organization, or turn it completely into a business? This was an idea that came from internally inside your company while we were doing some brainstorming. It's a fabulous idea. You don't care who buys it or under what circumstance. You just care that they're giving you they're coming up with $2.1 to $2.5 million. All the rest is just putting the details together of how to make the deal. So what I think I'm more than anything I can bring to you is I think there's a lot of ideas, new ideas and directions of where we could go with this. And I had the idea more than anything because of the experience I went through. I mean, I know I can make this, I'm already making this argument with some investors at this point now that made the argument I know nothing about the medical business. So it's interesting you bring that up. And I said it's irrelevant. This isn't the medical business. This is one technician, one receptionist, and one marketing person. Everything else the company can run, basically. We're going to teach the technician, right? The receptionist is going to be hired on her personality, and we're going to look for somebody who can continue maybe the customer service, which we talked about with Saul, where that's very important, to